Do you want to follow up question?
Yes, please, because clearly that's not an accurate answer. That document was not in report form prior to the election in May. As was being stated, there was a budget requirement in February for £100,000 of additional income, which in our eyes equated to a tariff increase of around 20 pence and no additional need to make any additional changes to the charges. Clearly the Lib Dem proposals went a lot further. They weren't, that report was not. Officers can suggest whatever they like. It's for members to sign off the report. Councillor Tyndall, I'm afraid, didn't answer my question as to whether that report was signed off by Lib Dem members prior to its publication. It wasn't in existence before.
Can we have a question, please?
Yes. He didn't answer the question. Was that report signed off by Lib Dem members before it was published for the 4th of July?
As far as I'm concerned, it wasn't signed off, which is why it was withdrawn. However, as the opposition actually lost the election, I failed to see why they should have an inquest on something that happened on their watch.
Right, any further questions for Councillor Tyndall? Councillor Douris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does Councillor Tyndall share with me the concern and the impact of one of the recommendations that are contained in the proposals by blocking a significant amount of parking? Because I notice in the recommendation, and the question was at the beginning.
It was, but
I know
that previous mayors have not been terribly indulgent on long preambles.
No, and I'm not doing. I didn't do a preamble. I did a question, and now I'm doing the supplementary explanation because it says consolidating off-street car park short stay sessions to introduce a new minimum stay of 2 hours. So, are we saying that people who park in these areas have got to park for 2 hours?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I distinctly recall that when Councillor Douris was in your position, he would not have tolerated such a statement.
Indeed, which is what I was alluding to. So can we please keep the questions to the point with limited preamble nor post-amble? So, Councillor Tyndall, do you want to respond?
As I understand it, Councillor Douris was referring to the phrase minimum of 2 hours. I believe that refers to the charge that is levied, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who is paying the charge needs to stay for the full 120 minutes. They may leave at 119 if they wish.
Any follow-up?
I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
My point's been made.
Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And given the last full council, when the relevant portfolio holders' answer to the question, what's going to happen to the future of the popular verge hardening programme was unclear, is the council leader able to give a clear statement as to what is happening with the verge hardening programme?
Councillor Tyndall.
No, but if Councillor Guest would care to write to me, I will ensure she gets a response.
Councillor Douris, are you looking for another question or do you need to switch off? No. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Councillor Tyndall as Leader of the Council? Councillor Barry-Mears.
Sorry, just a point of order, I think. The part about the verge hardening is in a separate portfolio and it's in the report. I just wanted to bring that to attention. So it is in the portfolio holder for that section's report.
Okay, thank you. If there's nobody else, we'll move on to Councillor Diani for the Housing and Property Services report, which of course has been provided previously, and we can go straight into questions. So do we have any questions for the Housing and Property Services portfolio holder?
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Burney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been informed that there is a new procedure for reporting damage or repairs that are required involving the surveyors. Could the portfolio holder let us know about these surveyors? I understand that they're council surveyors, and it would be interesting to know if this is actually the common practice nowadays, that first of all they examine a repair before it goes out to Osborne's.
Councillor Diani.
Thank you for the question. Yes, so it is a procedure which is a 5-year program, and we are reviewing all our properties, doing surveys if it needs to work, just as proactive repair rather than reactive repairs all the time. Whereas this does not mean that if the survey report comes out that there's a work needs doing, it would instantly be done, but it's all logged, and then it will be all taken in the work program for the year. Thank you.
Any follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The problem is that a lot of the surveyors do not leave any kind of address or card with the residents, and this makes it rather difficult for the councillor, the ward councillor, to follow up when there is a delay. Would it be possible to have someone who is designated as the controller of these surveyors that one could go to in the council to check up on progress?
Yes, absolutely. So there's I can email you the name of the officer who liaises with Osborne on our behalf to react on and work on these survey reports. But I would suggest if a resident or tenant feel they need to know what's going on, I would always suggest to write to the portfolio holder. I'm more than happy to get things going as fast as possible. I mean, that's the priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burney. Do we have any further questions for Councillor Diani? In which case we'll move on to Councillor Bromham, who is absent through illness, I believe. But Councillor Tyndall is willing to answer questions if he can on neighbourhood operations. Any questions on neighbourhood operations? We've got Councillor Rellett.
Thank you. Fly tipping, I'm going to ask the question there. Fly tipping is a blight on our borough, and I'm asked Councillor Tyndall that I've reported several bouts of fly tipping where I've photographed the actual address of the person who's dumped a box. And I'm just asking the question, are all of these issues followed up to that resident, and are they taken to court, or is every single identification pursued of a resident?
Councillor Tyndall.
I would hope so, Councillor Elliott. Fly tipping is a scourge of the countryside, and nothing despoils our district more than a pile of builders' rubble or other such mess that's left by some unscrupulous contractor. I will actually make sure that Councillor Bonham has receipt of your question, and if you would please let us have details of any issue that you've brought to the attention of the council, then I will ensure that you get a full response.
Any follow-up?
Okay, thank you for that. I'll pass on the incident numbers to your good self. Thank you.
So, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The leader may be aware that prior to elections in May, some of the councillors, candidates and canvassers were assuring residents that should they win the election, the £45 bin charge would be scrapped. I just wonder if you could update us on when people can expect a refund.
Councillor Tyndall.
I am unaware of that promise. It was certainly not authorised by myself or anybody I know of in the campaign team. The budget is actually starting its progress through council, and all fees and charges will shortly be looked at and discussed, and then council itself will have the opportunity through the Scrutiny Committee to actually make comments on what charges are being levied, whether they're remaining the same, they're up or they're down. But as far as I'm aware, I have no knowledge of that promise, and that, but no doubt the fees and charges will come forward in the budget in the usual way.
Any follow-up?
So just to be clear, so when the senior Lib Dem councillor posted back in February on social media, in response to a resident's answer, would the green bin charge go if you win the election? They said, certainly, that's my intention, and it will as early as May if we win the election. Was that person just misleading the public to get votes?
I actually do not indulge in Facebook, Twitter, or any other social media. I consider that most of it's rubbish. If there was an item by someone who then stood for the council and made that promise, then that person may well propose it. Whether or not it gets accepted is whether there is a majority in this chamber. But as far as I'm aware, I have no knowledge of that posting, and I have no knowledge of the councillor concerned.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions for Councillor Tyndall? Councillor Baradell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note in the report that the council had some success in countering dog fouling and littering in Gadebridge Park. I wondered first how that was achieved, and second, if the council had any plans to use that knowledge to tackle these issues outside of the main population centres, such as in Flampton and Gadsden, where, despite the PSPO, dog fouling continues to be an issue. Thank you.
Councillor Tyndall.
Yes, we are actually looking at the whole issue of how we deal with a variety of antisocial behaviour measures, particularly as I note you mentioned Gaddiston. It was the previous administration who restricted the activities of the wardens to the centre of Hemel in the main and Gadebridge Park, etc. I don't actually know the details of who was responsible for picking up the faeces. I would imagine it was the good efforts of our staff, but I will arrange for the portfolio holder to give you a full reply. And if you would care to give him your details of your particular question about Gaddiston, I'm sure he will respond.
Would you like a follow-up?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on neighbourhood operations? If not, we'll move forward to climate and ecological emergency. Councillor England, the report has been provided. Any questions on Councillor England's report? Councillor Wyatt-Lowe.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And of course, I'm one of those members who's never quite sure whether my microphone is working or not. So please advise me if it isn't. So, well, thank you very much for your report, Councillor England. What an impressive wish list. Could almost call you the can-do portfolio holder. However, can you point me in the direction of the targets and associated baseline measurements that are necessary to prove how effective your actions will be? So, because there are so many points in your report, and that your administration is seeking to address, and they need to be assessed in terms of meaningful impact, which will benefit primarily Dacorum residents, but of course the wider communities as we all seek to achieve climate change targets. So that's it. Can I have your response, please?
Councillor England.
Thank you, Councillor Wyatt-Lowe. Obviously, as a new administration, and indeed creating a new portfolio such as this, the first thing that we have undertaken is to go from the list that was left at the end of the last administration, which had 225 actions on it, and actually turn that into a plan that could be delivered. So I think you're right to talk about KPIs and talk about a proper plan, but I hope you'll understand that there was absolutely no such thing available for me to pick up. So the first job is to make one.
Would you like a follow-up?
Yes, when can we expect it? Because, as you continually tell us, we all know, the need is urgent. How urgent are you? How urgent? How much urgency are you going to put in getting that information put together so that you can be effective? And of course, we all wish you well. It's for all of our benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Whitelow. I appreciate the support. Unfortunately, the lead officer, the main officer who would have worked on these things, left the council, and there was no reappointment until June, which was 6 weeks after I started. So unfortunately, it's a little bit of the same thing. We are going as quickly as possible, but I hope you'll understand that given that the team basically exists of about 2.5 people, it's really difficult to hit the ground running. It is my hope to bring a paper to Scrutiny as soon as possible, but first of all, I need the action plan, and that is being prepared for me at the moment.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not about anything that Councillor England has just said, but I would like to ask a separate question on a separate issue to do with his portfolio. Is that allowed?
I think what we'll have to do is go through the list, and if there's time, you can rejoin the list after the people have already flagged up their desire to question. So I've got Councillor Friedman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before I ask my question, I'm just going to agree with Councillor Whitelow that obviously we support all of the urgency that the portfolio holder and the team are putting into the action list that's given, and we'll have very high hopes for success in that area. On to my question. Given the Conservative government's shameful abandonment of pledges to protect our environment, is Dacorum Borough Council at risk of repercussions for our objectives of net zero by 2050? And what measures can we take to protect the resources invested into sustainability, biodiversity and waste reduction initiatives?
I think there's a decorum-related question in there, but it sounded like there was a lot of national governmental issues, which I don't suppose Councillor England can answer to.
I'm asking what we as a council can do to protect the resources we're currently trying to put into initiatives.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Friedman. I mean, just to repeat the first question, which I understand was given the Conservative government has been abandoning pledges left, right and centre, does that put us at risk in our repercussions for our objective? I'm afraid to say it is looking that way, yes. The reckless politics now being played by Prime Minister Sunak with the strategic future and reputation of the UK and Decorum for making plans and investment promises.
Councillor England, can I just ask you to keep it to decorum-related matters? This isn't an arena for debating governmental level matters.
Okay. The Local Government Association has stated plainly that local authorities can get this job done. We can decarbonise and we can lead on community decarbonising, which is a much bigger picture. And we can do so much quicker and more cost effectively than Westminster. But what we need is the investment. What we need is the certainty. There's been a lot of talk about certainty and uncertainty on the basis of what's been said at the top of government, and that has a direct impact on local government. So we need certainty, and we haven't got it, and we need action, and we need resources. I was at the Local Government East of England Net Zero conference last week, and the message was grimly clear from everybody who contributed online. And I dare say Sunak was a figure of fun across party at that event. The message was, without the investment, we can't do the job. So I do sincerely hope that the Conservatives here, who have the ear of their men in grey suits, will have a word quite soon. Thank you.
So was there a follow-up question, briefly?
No follow-up question other than to say I think that we may need to be more strategic
Question,
at
not
DBC.
statements, please. So Councillor Pringle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to see that there is some movement on infrastructure for electric vehicle charging in the borough. Many of my residents in Northchurch are really keen to see the introduction of roadside EV chargers. I wonder if you can advise my residents about how they can best go about proposing sites for EV chargers.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. I've been hunting for a more specific link because there is one in the strategy produced by ACC on on-street charging. They do invite residents to come to councils and suggest where they would like to see EV charging points on street. I've discussed that with my team, and we're going to be working that into communications so that we can make that abundantly clear and available to people. But what I would suggest an excellent way for people to get involved and be part of that conversation is to sign up as an individual or as an organisation to the Decorum Climate Action Network, which has its conference here on the 20th of November. Set your watches. Because if you get involved in that conversation, I am very keen to take as much of this from the community and not have a top-down, but have a bottom-up approach to really tackling this problem, which has been left for 4 years without a proper focus.
Thank you very much for your response.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. Councillor Douris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed from the report that Councillor England and the team met with Portsmouth City Council in August. Could I ask him, please, where was the meeting, who went, and how did they get there?
Councillor England.
The meeting was attended by Decorum officers, myself, and some Portsmouth City Council officers. And you'll be pleased to know it took place on MS Teams.
Thank you.
Any follow-up? Thank you. Councillor Pesh.
Right, thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome the ideas of encouraging people to be able to walk and cycle and use the buses more. My question, though, is when you look at the existing bus services, will you take into account that the present Arriva bus service that we have is very, very poor? If you want
Going to have to hurry you, Councillor Pesh.
Sorry?
Time's running out, and can we come to the question as quickly as possible?
Or will you take into account how poor the bus service is?
Councillor England will.
Thank
Very
you.
quick.
Thank you, Councillor Pesh. Certainly, I've been pushing on bus improvement since day one. It's clearly great to have EV charge points, but what we need is better buses, better walking, better cycling. We are now making progress on the walking and cycling, and I've been invited with Councillor Wilkie and officers from Place to attend a meeting with HCC to talk about the bus service improvement plan. That meeting is scheduled for the 3rd of November. So I'd like to take this opportunity to put a message out to the hordes of people who are listening and watching online that we really want to have your ideas on this. If you know how to improve the buses in Hemel, tell us.
Thank you. I'm afraid no time for a follow-up. You'll need to, thank you. Moving on to the, Councillor Wilkie and the Place portfolio. Any questions to Councillor Wilkie's report? Councillor Diani. No, in error. If there are no questions... Oh, Councillor Pringle.
Yes, just quickly, I had intended to ask Councillor Wilkie this, though I think Councillor England has partially answered it, but a lot of residents in North Church are extremely frustrated at the poor bus service, and I was wanting to know what we can do as a borough to take the lead on that. I think Councillor England has partially answered that already, but I know you are involved in that also, Councillor Wilkie.
Yes, there we go. Thank you for the question. Yes, I can only add to what my colleague has said, Councillor England. We've been invited to a meeting to discuss bus routes. This will also interlink with a number of other projects. So, for example, the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, Hemel Gardens community plan, and also the buses in particular, where we're looking at the infrastructure there. We understand that as an administration, as a council, that if we are serious about climate change, if we're serious about neighbourhoods, then we have to make it so that people can use a regular service that they can rely on, that is affordable. So it's certainly one of our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have no follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nobody else, we'll move on to people and transformation. Any latecomers? No. Okay. Oh, Councillor Wyler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spotted an opportunity to ask my question as Councillor Weston mentioned the Nicky Line resurfacing in her report. This morning I was walking along the Nicky Line with my other half from by Hotwell's Garage through to the town centre, and we encountered not one, not two, but 3 cyclists speeding up behind us. No warning, no devices, not even a shout. This is I raised this now, it's about the 3rd time I've raised it at various meetings, so thank you for giving me the opportunity, Councillor Weston. When are we going to pass a bylaw asking all cyclists and people on scooters so they can give due warning to pedestrians when they aren't aware that they're there? And it's not just for the pedestrians' protection, it's also for the cyclists. I mean, we do not want nasty accidents.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we've got the question, so Councillor Wilkie.
No, it's not Wilkie, it's Weston.
Forgive me, Mayor, I don't know what the question is. I heard her being unhappy about cyclists not ringing the bell, I think.
It's when are we going to pass a bylaw requiring cyclists to...
Point of order, the question is to Councillor Weston.
Oh, I see, right. Apologies, I thought you'd snuck in on place.
So
Councillor Weston.
If I may, Mayor, I think that's because the Nicky Line resurfacing, etc., was in my report and not in Councillor Weston's.
Is that my mistake? It's under Hemel Garden Communities.
Seeing as we didn't use the time, would you like it answered by Councillor Wilkie under place?
I would very much like an answer from Councillor Wilkie and all the other portfolio holders who have influence in this, and as a council, I want to see it through.
Thank you. So the question is, when can we expect a bylaw requiring cyclists to provide warning to pedestrians?
Thank you, Mayor. And that's certainly something we can look at. In terms of the inbox I have, and I get hundreds of emails a day, the majority of them about more cycling, more pathways. That isn't something that's been raised with me, but I'm happy to look at it and come back to you in writing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would you like a follow-up? Thank you, Councillor Whitelow. So we are now moving on to Councillor Weston. Yes, sorry, Councillor Tyndall.
I just wonder, Councillor Wilkie, when you are looking into the question of a bylaw, perhaps you might ask officers to look back as to see when the question of a bylaw to control cyclists was last questioned by the administration over the last few years.
I certainly will, Leader. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Right. I think we're done with place now. Councillor Weston, any questions for Councillor Weston on people and transformation? Councillor Douris.
You were desperately trying to think I wasn't here.
I wouldn't dream of it.
Councillor Weston, in the last line of the third paragraph, you say this, with regard to technology, this will result in greater productivity and a better service for our residents. Could you tell me how you will measure the improvement and the betterment in the service to the residents?
Thank you, Councillor. We are at the present moment setting up a new IT system, as I have explained in our previous full council meeting. We are going to be having a presentation with the Cabinet in the very near future. When we've had the presentation, the Cabinet are happy, then we will have a paper will be sent out, agreed on, and all the members will be able to contribute to that presentation. But I've had a small presentation with the IT along with the leader, and it seems that they are doing quite an extensive job to do with customers being able to contact us with any problems, etc. they may have. Thank you.
A follow-up?
If I may, I think I got the gist of that, but I'm not sure that I really heard how you are going to hear from the residents that the service has been improved. Maybe I've missed it, and if I have, I apologise, but I don't think I heard that key element to my question.
Councillor Weston.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, sir. Yes, Councillor. What's going to be happening with the new IT system? It's going to be the residents are going to be able to call up and speak to a particular customer services personnel on any problems that they may have, and it's going to be monitored daily on a regular basis to make sure that all residents are being heard, listened to, and being able to report any problems that they may have. As I say, this is a new IT system, and we will be getting the Cabinet will be getting a presentation the end of October, just to make sure that we are doing the right things for the residents. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have any more questions for people and transformation? If not, we can move on. Councillor Symington is unfortunately unwell, but I believe Councillor Tindall will try to answer any questions there are on corporate and commercial services. And, Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And in the consultation, the informal consultation about parking charges, the question is asked, should the council charge for free car parks? Can the council leader confirm that Gadebridge Park will remain free?
Councillor Tindall.
At the moment, there is no intention to charge for Gadebridge Park, but if people respond to that consultation and volunteer to actually suggest a charge, then we will have to consider it, because we want to do what the residents want us to do. But at the moment, we have no intention to impose a charge.
Follow-up at all, Councillor Guest?
There's no follow-up except that does the council leader really think that people would want the council to charge for Gadebridge Park, considering that the petitions against it over the summer were very popular and enthusiastically signed by residents?
Councillor Tindall.
Council may recall that earlier I responded to the Leader of the Opposition by saying I didn't look at Facebook or Twitter, simply because there are so many idiots on that that come out with so different outlandish things. Now, no doubt there may be several people on Facebook suggesting that we should charge a lot of money to take cars off the road or to park in all sorts of places. Facebook is complete basket case, and so therefore I will wait and see the formal consultation and the response is from our responsible residents, and then we'll make a decision.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just been a short while since we introduced the green bin charge. Would Councillor Tyndall agree with me? It's been a fantastic success in raising income, because the initial target was £625,000. It's now more than double that. So would you agree with me? It's been a roaring success.
Councillor Tyndall.
Thank you, Councillor Early. I'm pleased that the decorum followed the examples of several Liberal Democrat councillors in introducing the green waste charge. And yes, I can accept it's been a success, and it's proved that we were right to follow the example of other Liberal Democrat councillors, and we are not looking at what other good ideas are being exercised elsewhere by our colleagues in other authorities in order to gain a greater representation for our members.
No follow-up. Thank you. Councillor Hamill.
Yeah, can I thank the administration for getting round to structural works and window repairs long overdue at Bennettsgate Neighbourhood Centre, which described as 37 as progressing but won't actually commence until next month. There might be some of my residents thinking that actually it's already started, but nevertheless, it's a much neglected part of Hemel Hempstead, and I'd like to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamill. I realise the concerns you have for your residents, and I also share concerns that some of the crumbling infrastructure we have, which is gradually being identified. If you'd like to make sure we've got the full details, I'll make sure you get a full response.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to Councillor Guest's question to the Council about free car parking, does seem to be in a bit of confusion here, because if I go back to the Scrutiny Committee earlier in September, there was a specific recommendation in the report that said this committee notes that the Council intends to retain the free parking policy in Gadebridge Park, Canal Fields and the existing Kings Langley car park. Mysteriously, that recommendation disappeared before it got to Cabinet. Recommendation 3 that went to Scrutiny disappeared. And now Councillor Tyndall is telling us that they haven't ruled out car parking charges, but just 3 weeks ago, the Scrutiny Committee was explicitly told in its recommendations that it had been ruled out. Does he actually know what's going on?
Preamble to a question. What's the question?
Does he actually know what the policy is of his administration?
Yes, the policy is actually to ensure that the parking charges that we apply across the borough are fair, equal and are accepted by the residents. Now, whether things are ruled in or ruled out, that will be for the consultation to advise us. We will then take a view, it will then go to scrutiny, and then everybody can have another dig at it. But it seems very strange that parking is such a major issue, given it was very quiet for the last 4 years and nobody mentioned Dicky Bird, even when inflation was at 11% and therefore the council was losing money.
Councillor Williams? No. Councillor Mitchell?
I'd just like to ask, I'm sorry I haven't been able to access the intranet to read the report, so if it's in there already, please forgive me, but I'd like to ask if you're aware about the structural issues at Rossgate shop and the lump of concrete that fell off of the shops and hit off of the actual underneath of the shops and hit one of the shop managers in the head, and if there's any updates on what's happening with that situation, please. Thank you.
Councillor Tyndall.
Thank you very much, and I haven't heard of that. I am very concerned. I'd be very grateful if you could let both myself and the Chief Executive have a note of that, because I feel that is something that we should investigate as soon as possible. Thank you.
Would you like to follow up at all, Councillor Mitchell? Would you like a follow-up question? Thank you. Councillor Timmis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to ask whether the electric vehicle charging points, are they going to be rolled out as far as the villages by any chance? And a supplementary question, can I ask that now or later?
Let's deal with the first one first.
Okay,
Are they going to be rolled out to the villages?
I would normally defer to my colleague sitting on my left. My understanding, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is that we are going to try and make sure that there is a wider range of chargers for all of our residents. Now, obviously, where we have a smaller demographic, that does present problems. We also have the county council who are a little bit pernickety sometimes with things like that. But I will ask my colleague to respond to you properly and give you a full answer on that, because obviously I realise that you have your residents to consider.
And the follow-up?
Yeah, a follow-up is to ask whether these electric charge points will be limited in time or whether a car can sit on them all the time overnight, for instance, which means others can't get onto them.
I believe that will depend on the technical aspects of them. I think there are fast chargers and there are slow chargers, but I will ask my colleague to include that in his response to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyndall. Councillor Wyatt-Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Tyndall, I just wonder whether you can help me. I do seem to recall that Councillor Slimmington stating at either the last council or possibly Scrutiny that one of the reasons why your administration was looking at charging for the free car parks was in the interests of equality of provision, and also with regard to encouraging people to reduce the use of cars. Do you remember that?
I recall that was one aspect of the debate that swirled around. We also had concerns about Kings Langley. We also had concerns about a number of other places. At the end of the day, the decision was taken to produce the consultation paper as has now been produced, and various other ideas that were floated at the time have fell by the wayside.
Would you like to ask a supplementary? Thank you, Councillor Wyatt-Lowe. If there's nobody else... Oh, Councillor Douris.
Most of the time. Councillor Tyndall, I seem to recall that in the parking proposals, there's a proposal to increase the charges in certain of the car parks. I understand that. But I also understand that in other car parks, the minimum charge for parking is to be based on a longer period of time. And that, in fact, has increased the effective parking charge from something possibly like 28p, figures might not be absolutely correct, but 28p to possibly
Question?
something very similar. Is that correct? I can see red as well, don't worry.
Would you like to answer that, Councillor Tyndall?
I will arrange for you to have a written answer because I'm not allowed to speak anymore.
Thank you very much. So we have a previously submitted question from Councillor Mitchell. If you would like to read out your question in full, no preamble or commentary necessary.
Okay.
Just the question.
Just as a point of order, the question's already been answered by an email that was sent out by Calvin Soley, and we're very thankful to the administration for putting together a very thorough and comprehensive package of support for the Wilco employees. Would you like me to read it, even though it's actually been answered already?
I think, yes, there's a requirement that the public and whoever may be watching it can know what the answer was.
Okay, sure. My question is, or was, that was submitted, the 36, I believe now 35 workers currently employed at the Wilco branch in Hemel Hempstead will be made redundant at the latest in early October. 32 of these workers live in the borough, and 11 of them are not entitled to any redundancy at all. For every one of these workers losing their job will impact on their lives, the lives of their families and their community. Being put at risk of redundancy has a big emotional impact and is a major life change to come to terms with, especially when an organisation such as Wilko's goes into administration. What will this administration and the Borough Council do to assist these workers in finding alternative employment? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your question. An economic development officer has already visited the store manager and we'd received this question. They've confirmed the store will close on the 28th of September 22, very sadly, with the store being cleared the following day. The manager advised that their head office had suggested a site visit from Job Centre Plus, but this hasn't been arranged and so welcomed our support that we could provide as a council. From the support package pulled together at the time at the Amazon closure, the store manager suggested a job support session at the store, and this has been agreed by the store manager for the 28th of September, so that's tomorrow. I'm sorry it wasn't before this meeting because I was hoping to give you a better update, but I will write up with an update on that. Officers are working with partners such as Job Centre Plus, West Herts College and Community Action Decorum to provide support on skills assessments, CV and job application writing and interview training and help to complete universal credit claims. The session in store will also include signposting to job vacancies we are aware of, including at this council, and with partners such as the BID, Marlowe's and the NHS, and provide advice on website where job adverts are posted. As many partners as possible would be the on-site session, but given the time frame, it may not be possible for all to attend, and so information will be provided by them to be passed on to the staff. Additionally, I've asked for contact details to be left for any staff not available to join the session of that day. I've subsequently had an update from officers of those that will be joining. So Christy Woodgate, the Economic Development Officer, will also be there, Dacorum Borough Council HR and OD Manager, the Hemel Job Centre Plus representative, Job Centre Plus representative, a DENS representative, Step 2 Skills representative, Sunnyside Rural Trust representative, CAD, Community Action Decorum representative and West Herts College representative. I'd be happy to send out the list of all the people that will be going. I'd also be happy to give you an update following that day. They asked for it to be on the last day because apparently it was when all the staff could be there. Thank you.
You're entitled to 2 follow-ups, I believe, so if you want to.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Wilkie, that's great. Supplementary question. Due to the pressures on high street retail and the current government continuing to allow shareholders to receive huge dividends, which bleed companies dry, it is highly likely that a similar situation may arise, such as we have already seen with Debenhams and Wilko's. Would the administration consider having a similar support strategy policy so it can be ready to be rolled out should this unfortunate situation occur again, which we believe it will, as the high streets are suffering at the moment?
Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Yes, like you, this administration's first thoughts are for these poor families, having perhaps just managed to survive through a cost of living crisis are now facing redundancy and they must be desperate. And sadly, we are seeing this more and more. Sadly, as a council, the officers were aware of this process required through Amazon because of the loss of Amazon. That was somewhat different in that we could work with Amazon to place workers within that company. It's a very different situation with Wilko. But yes, we do have a system. Yes, we're able to introduce that very quickly, as I hope I've demonstrated in answer to your question. But of course, we'd all hope that it won't be necessary.
And any further supplementary questions?
It's just something to consider whether the administration would look into creating a strategy for meanwhile use and mid and long-term use for the empty buildings and floor space that we have in the local precincts that are owned by DBC, but also get some strategy together with the business owners and the property owners in the town to help with community projects. Maybe they could be used in that way. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Yes, I agree. I'm not sure if you'll be aware, but we have a Hemel Place strategy along with the Hemel Garden Communities project, which is completely reimagining the centre. And part of that will be looking at usage of space, pop-up stores, certainly more urbanisation along the draft local plan. But I agree with you, we do have to be more agile as a council. The days of the old town centre don't exist anymore. And certainly I think your comments are valuable, and I'll consider them more. Thank you.
And I'm advised you're allowed 3 supplementaries if you have a further one. I'm advised you're allowed 3 supplementaries if you would like a further one. Thank you very much. So there are no outstanding actions from the last council meeting. All outstanding responses from the previous meeting have been circulated and published as part of tonight's agenda. I'll move on to cabinet referrals. So, Councillor Tyndall, can you please introduce these?
If I may, I would like to move CA 6323 enforcement report, which is in the agenda.
Second.
I would also like to move CA 7723 financial performance Q1, which is in the agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Those are hereby agreed and implemented. The overview and scrutiny referral, there are no referrals, and but there is, Councillor Tyndall will introduce a report on changes to the Health Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given COVID and what followed and the extensive effort performed by the Council and the voluntary sector in Decorum, which assisted our residents, we felt that it was important that the Health Committee in Decorum should actually be expanded and cover wellbeing as well, because there are an awful lot of issues outstanding concerning health and wellbeing. This report proposes some minor changes to the Health and Decorum Committee to change its name to the Health and Wellbeing Committee and to expand the terms of reference to ensure that the committee can explore any matters affecting Decorum and or its residents, including assessing the impact of services provided directly by the Council as well as our external partners. This is a non-statutory committee and does not change the remit of the Council's statutory scrutiny committees, and all matters falling within their remit will be referred for scrutiny at that level. The report also proposes an additional responsibilities allowance for the chairperson to make it commensurate with other chairpersons. I so move.
I second and reserve my right to speak.
Right, thank you very much. I think it might be a timely moment. I gather Jim McManus, the Hertfordshire Head of Public Health, is moving on, and he was at that meeting, and I think it would be an idea if we could send our gratitude to Jim McManus for all of his excellent service through COVID and the work he's done within Decorum. He's been a very engaged Head of Public Health, and we're very grateful to him for his hard work on our behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know all the county councillors in the council chamber from all parties will actually totally agree with your comments. We have been extremely fortunate, and Wales's gain is our loss. I do intend to keep in touch with Jim because I